Hello, I'm Jennifer Powell, and today we're talking trash. On Take a Look, it's a time when we look at the people, places, and organizations that make up Lancaster community. And we've got Jack Howell, who's the SACA Elm Street manager, and we have Ana Quintino Juarez, who is a neighbor, homeowner, and on the steering committee for the Sidewalk Stewardship program. So Jack, tell us about this program.
Well, it was an outgrowth of work we did originally on Purging Avenue, where we worked with neighbors to install small trash cans called tiny cans throughout the block, and did a mural with community input that is beautiful. And a lot of other smaller things, including trimming trees so that light would come through and create a safer environment. And we did some litter remediation in kind of an experimental basis. Some additional cameras for security, a bunch of other things I probably forgot.
So it really just started at the neighborhood level,
yeah.
And SACA came in. And tell us a little bit about the tiny cans.
Yes. This is probably more than you want to hear, but I had bought a bunch of trash cans with large trash cans that you see on the powder-coated big ones, and they're like $800 or $900 each. And I bought it with a state grant, and I had $202 left.
Oh.
And with that, I couldn't buy a whole trash can. But I had remembered a few neighbors had been hanging trash bags from their railings in the hopes that somebody would put litter there. Yeah.
Oh,
so we just kind of put that on steroids.
Ah, so there are actual little cans that are on the property owner, and then you can just put garbage and trash there.
And the $202 bought a prototype, and with that prototype we had a lot of them. We got some support and got a bunch of them made.
So about how many tiny cans are down in the area?
We probably have 40 on that block.
That's
so
fantastic.
Kind of following Walt Disney, who said when he opened his first theme park in California, he figured out the trash can had to be every 35 or 40 feet or people would drop stuff.
There you have it, there you have it. So Anna, how did you get involved in the program, this Sidewalk Stewardship program?
Yeah, my brother bought a home from SACA, one of their renovation homes, and I had moved in with him at the time. And it's funny because I remember like moving in and seeing the tiny trash can on the railing and thinking a lot of like, I wonder who does this, even like the flower pots, which is part of the greening that they have incorporated into the neighborhood. But long story short, they were having a block party and I was home and I was like, yeah, I'll go check it out, like go take my dog, get her socialized a little bit. And I just started chit-chatting because I'm just a natural yapper. Oh. And I met Jack and I met Elise that also helps out with the greening, and I helped them gardening a little bit there. And
pretty soon she was crawling around in the dirt.
Yeah. And
so the tiny cans was what sort of drew your attention. You saw those on the block, and then there was a party. So of course, let's go check out the party.
Yeah. Well, they did a good job of leaving like a little note on everyone's door saying like we're gonna have a block party.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So again, this is sort of like it comes from SACA, but it really is neighbor driven. And you've mentioned a couple things like greenery. So there's beautification project as well that goes on simultaneously with the trash removal.
And Jennifer, that kind of gets to one of the things that we've discovered does not work, which is you can't attack litter as a solo project.
You can't
all by itself. It has to have other positives attached to it.
Okay, and litter. We're talking trash today, so but it's not the greatest subject. How do you get people engaged to pick up litter, I guess, is the question.
My answer is, in the big picture, maybe you don't. At least in terms of sporadic, volunteer-driven efforts, which I acknowledge as being important, but they don't often sustain.
Yeah, I actually live in the southeast quadrant of the city where this is piloting, and we had some large trash cans installed. Unfortunately, the person that was emptying them moved, and so there wasn't someone to do it, and then it was overflowing and it became more of an eyesore than what it was intended, that the trash was just all piling up.
Yeah.
So I found the tiny cans concept really interesting, but also just the neighbor engagement around that, and that has to be important. I mean, do you see other neighbors getting involved as well, and is this something that sort of is a little bit different than your experience in the past?
Unfortunately, not as much. I think it is unfortunately quite hard to get people involved, especially in minority communities, because I think unfortunately, it's a lot about survival, and free time typically I don't think is prioritized in some of these activities. But I think slowly with more acknowledgement, and it does make a huge difference. All these little things I think will slowly make a huge difference, and I think it takes time and to really kind of drill certain things into people.
And it probably takes systematic work, because let's look at downtown Lancaster or downtown anywhere.
Yes.
In any Class 3 city, they're generally very clean or quite clean. Yeah. And I'm not a brain surgeon, so I figured it out. They're clean because somebody picks up the trash, and there are trash cans that are regularly emptied.
Right.
So the challenge is, how do you do that?
How do you do that?
Yeah. Do you do it with volunteers? Do you do it with paid people? How do you get there? And some experimentation needs to be done. Yeah. But we know what works. We know what doesn't work.
Right.
Having the street sweeper smear it around doesn't work.
That doesn't work.
Does lecturing work?
No, lecturing doesn't work.
Does it work to, right now, as we speak, a little old lady is probably picking up trash, right?
So what I see a lot is it's structured. There's a structured component to it, and I think that that's maybe something that's been a little bit different, because there's been neighborhood beautification projects and things that I have lived in the Southeast Quadrant since 1997, so a long time. I've seen a lot transpire and grow, and really proud of our community and seeing what's been done, and especially SACA's work within the community. But I'm curious to hear a little bit more about your background as well, Jack, and sort of how you brought this to Lancaster, and sort of where your ideas were with that.
I often say I know a little bit about everything, but not much about anything. So I'm a generalist, and I try to take life experiences and apply them and find people that know what they're doing.
Right.
My life experiences until 1999 was Michigan. Oh. And Jennifer, there, when I was a little kid, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, there was still a bottle bill then. I would pick up bottles and cans and redeem it at Old Larry's grocery store for candy or whatever, cold beer. No, but we would. So that has endured. And if you look at a soft drink can now or a beer can, you'll see Michigan 15 cents or a bottle, and that's expanded. And the roads and neighborhoods are measurably cleaner because of that. We don't have that in Pennsylvania.
We don't. Huh. So seeing that in Michigan really kind of got that idea of how can we integrate this into the community and have it just part of.
And the other thing, and Ana could expand on this, but litter, when you start thinking about it, affects physical health, the environment, and mental health.
Mental health, yeah.
There's that broken windows sort of theory that you clean up the neighborhood, you get the members engaged, and they fix the broken windows, and crime rates go down.
Yeah.
Just purely from some beautification, and so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, we were talking about this not too long ago, actually. It is actually quite fascinating and sad how much our environment has an impact on us, especially growing up as children. I think in the ages from the ages from 6 to 17 in children, if they grow up in an area with a lot of litter, pretty bad buildings, graffiti, their depression and anxiety rates are significantly higher than someone that is not. And I think that it's almost like generational at that point then. It definitely, especially kind of environmental racism, I think, plays a huge role in all of this. And, you put yourself in someone's shoes and situation, they're growing up, they can see that they're not really cared about as much as other areas. You kind of grow up in a mentality of like, I don't care. People don't care about us. I don't care. And it just kind of like I'm sure has a domino effect in the rest of their lives, and
Yeah.
it's quite fascinating. And SACA's block is definitely beautiful, and we've had friends come over and they have said like, wow, you guys are so lucky to have this beautiful mural.
Yes.
The monarch mural. It's gorgeous. It definitely just adds color, and the flower pots are gorgeous as well too. And they help. I know they're native plants, which is like a whole other sector of everything.
We'll talk a little bit about that
too. Yes, but the impact is actually quite fascinating, and I don't think it's definitely talked about as much as it should be.
That's such an important point, and you're right. We don't really talk about that, and I think the psychological, the mental, the emotional, there is an impact as a result of this.
Yeah, there's a book out a while back called The Tipping Point.
Yes,
and I think this applies to litter because as a clean bathroom tends to stay clean.
Right.
A dirty bathroom tends to attract less clean,
Less
right?
clean.
And with litter, what I have noticed is once you hit and we've done some experimentation, but you hit a block or two and you say, okay, it's clean, and initially it takes clean, yeah, keep it, but once it gets to a level,
then
it tends to be cleaner.
And maintained. Yeah. Well, we're gonna wrap up with that right now, and we'll be back. We're back. So Jack, you were wrapping up a little bit in the first segment about the tipping point and the cleaning up of the neighborhood and the improvement of the mental, social. We talked a little bit about what works, what doesn't work. What have you seen during this quiet sort of experimental phase? What doesn't work?
Top-down lecturing is on the top of the list. It does not work. Sporadic cleanups by outsiders does not work. Depending upon individuals who are fighting against a bigger trend, does not work. By that I mean, as we speak, somebody is picking up litter right now, and they're a good person, but they're fighting a losing battle, and they feel like they're not part of a bigger system. So we need to be able to recognize that doesn't by itself make an impact, but if we put those people together, it makes an impact.
Yeah, it does. So, Anna, what has been your experience with neighbors? Have you had conversations with other neighbors? And I know you mentioned it's hard because if you're working full-time, could be a full-time parent, full-time job, to try to think of extra time. But generally, sort of how has the community embraced this?
I think slowly. I think they notice, but I don't think it's probably talked about enough or really within neighbors, because I started helping out with the greening, picking up some of the trash and some of the weeding and some of our green spots on the block. And I'm not gonna lie, some days I'll never forget the day I picked up, I think like 5 bottles full of urine.
Oh my.
Yes, that were in one of the greening spots. And I was like, oh my God, like, it doesn't feel great, right? Because it's like, it does feel, as a single individual, it does feel like a losing battle at times. And I went to another spot, and one of the neighbors walked by and simply said, "You're doing an amazing job." And that was like the one small little like ratification moment where I was like, this is why we do this.
We've all seen that stupid movie, The Sister Act with Whoopi Goldberg. At the end, everybody gets together and sings, and the problem is solved, which is, of course, superficial and stupid. But one of the things I have learned that is sort of sister acty is, and I've used leaf blowers along with friends from the block at each end of the block, and people, when they see that, guess what happens? They come out with brooms. They come out. They pick up stuff. They're like engaged because they don't see it as hopeless. Yeah. And that is, you're asking about what does work. I think you have to look at the downtowns and say what works, and that's systematic service delivery that doesn't look municipal.
Right. Yeah, you said something, this isn't just delivering a service.
Yeah.
And that really was very touching to me because, when oftentimes you think of these, it's thought of as a service, or it's thought of as purely a metric, or something that
Here comes the street sweeper.
Yeah.
And that's it.
But this is about true community engagement and true sort of neighbors helping neighbors and the empowerment of the community.
It is, and I would underscore systematic and weekly is what we know what works. It's got to be. You can't do it once in a while, every two.
So frequency,
frequency and dependability, and done in a fashion so people see it.
Yes.
So it's not just like, oh, there they go again. It's being done for me. You got to feel like I'm part of it.
No, it's really fascinating to hear that, as you're blowing the leaves or you're picking up that someone else, it's like that sticking, they see you and then they come out and they come to support the program, and then these other efforts to, like the block party, which is what got you involved. But sort of, what have you learned from this experience, I think?
Well, I've learned that probably 90% of the litter comes from 10% of the people. And I've learned that a good deal of litter comes from trash pickup that is fast, but sometimes not overly, shall we say, accurate. People are going through as fast as they can.
Right.
I've learned that a neighborhood that is high rental is going to have more challenges, in part because of frequent move-outs that have to be addressed. And what happens right now is somebody moves out and they're a renter and they're going somewhere else, and there's 4 mattresses left and a bicycle that's broken. You leave it on you run, that's what I would do. But that sits there and collects attracts more trash, and the reporting to City Hall is sort of sporadic. It might occur from somebody over here, somebody over there, but it's really not systematic in terms of somebody knowing that's there. And it's time for the city to come by and cite the property owner for that if it sits there for too long.
Right. Yeah, and like you said, it attracts more trash, and so just the sheer amount that from the constant move-outs and. But one of the other things that you mentioned were the pots and the greenery. So native plants. So were you conscious? I feel like every aspect of this, although it seems very organic, is calculated and thought of. And so not only did you beautify the area, but you were committed to beautifying with native.
Well, you didn't see us making the sausage. That we came to that we invented that and discovered it as we talked to people and learned. I wish I could say, boy, we had the answer. We still don't have all the answers. Right. We need to do experimentation.
Yes.
One of the things that I wanted to mention is how people measure success.
Yes.
People, here's how not to do it. Last week we picked up 10 tons of trash. And next week we're going to do 11 tons. That you want to measure success by how much you don't pick up, while creating or maintaining that level of cleanliness with a litter index that is measurable.
Yes, and so how does this ramp? I mean, this sounds like a block by block program.
Yeah, not individual blocks. I think that maybe the next phase, and we don't really. Again, we're making sausage as we speak. But the next phase, I think, needs to be what can we do in a lot of blocks with community input, and how can it be measured, and then if it's successful, how can it be expanded and replicated? If it's not a one block. We've done the one block or 3 blocks. We did 6 blocks. Yeah.
That's great.
Are neighbors noticing, an increase in their property values? Have you heard? Is there something that really attracts people to this? Is that something that folks have talked about?
I'm going to break a rule and push that back to you.
Okay.
You live in the neighborhood, and you saw some a 6 month or not 6 months, probably 5 month experiment. What was your observation?
Absolutely. I think it's we noticed the decrease in trash, and at first we didn't, you just kind of go about your business, and then all of a sudden it was just like, wait a minute, there's no I don't see trash. And I didn't see the people doing it.
That was a shortfall. That's got to change.
And so, but it was all of a sudden, and then I really paid attention, walked down the street, and I've lived on that block for a long time, and my mother used to live on the block down below. So I've been on Howard Avenue for a long time, and I was just speechless at the change, and it was consistent, and you could see it. And I know I myself, as a homeowner, felt more pride, because you don't want people coming to visit. You already deal with parking, let alone coming into the trash. But so really, what's next? What's next with this?
I think an expanded experiment.
Okay.
As I said, we're making sausage, and when you make sausage, sometimes you don't want everybody to see it, but I think people are going to begin to see the sausage making. We at least know enough now to know what the ingredients are.
There you have. Yeah. What do you see as what's next for the program, or how do you think you're going to personally kind of continue your involvement?
I'm gonna take Jack's little saying here and also say we're all making the sausage.
Yeah.
We're all taking it one little step at a time and seeing. But hopefully it's definitely something positive. I mean, I definitely see it's interesting, right? Because the SACA block, I think the first half is pretty homeowner based, and then the second half is pretty rental based. And you do see a huge, circling back almost what you were saying about the rentals being a big part of the problem, or being more of a
challenge.
Yes.
By the way, one of the things a block party does, and I used to think block parties, okay, big deal, but they are important because those types of functions introduce the renter to the homeowner. And I've had residents who are homeowners say, "Well, I never knew so and so, and they're okay."
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Party food. If you bring people together with food and entertainment.
And what we've done is with native plants. You were digging around at a block party or two with free plant. It engages kids great in a positive way. So.
This is just first, thank you for being here today and talking about the program. Thank you for what you're doing as a neighbor, as a homeowner, as a resident of Lancaster City. And thanks to you and SACA for really continuing to push these initiatives with our community. It is important that we have a litter remediation program, and the sidewalk stewardship block by block maybe it starts, but we're looking at replicating and growing, and I think what's next is really more to come.
Yep.
Well, Ana and Jack, thank you so very much for coming, and thank you for being here on Take a Look, and we'll see you next time. I'm Jennifer Powell.